Hopefully I'll remember to edit that out, but I wouldn't trust me on it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 524 of the Dead Robot Society. I'm Terry Mixon. Joining me, Paul E. Cooley. How you doing, man?
It's a kind of a dark fall day here in Texas.
It's a dark and stormy day.
It is not a dark and stormy day. Well, it could be stormy. Who the hell knows?
Who knows what the weather is like out there?
All I know is I'm sitting here in my nice darkness where I belong. Where I look good. You don't want to see me in full sunlight. It's a bad thing.
You should have like this little backdrop you could put behind yourself that looks like the inside of a trash can.
Oh, God. You know, I had all these ideas way back when to put up a green screen and all that kind of crap. And then I looked at what I was going to take to light it, the fact I'd be blind, you know, all this other crap, and decided not to do it. So, but yeah, it'd be good. It'd be good for us to do that at some point because I think it'd be funny.
God only knows what they'd put behind us.
You know, it'd be really funny. Suddenly Paul's talking about horror and clowns are showing up behind him in a collage or something on those lines. You know, Terry starts talking and all we see behind him are squirrels.
Or pelvis cannons.
Yeah, you'd have to be a patron to hear that conversation.
Anyway. What is going on in your life, man?
Working on recording Evolution and yeah, I can't talk. Getting Evolution recorded and then working on Trident, the fourth book in the Derelict saga. There's some things going on right now that may change certain priorities. Nothing I can talk about publicly or want to, but we'll see how things go. I'm going to have to make some decisions at the end of this year, early next year. But regardless, the work continues, the production continues, and I won the 2018 Parsec Award.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
Yeah.
Congratulations, buddy.
Thank you. And it was for book 2 in a series.
That's unusual.
It was for the swampy middle of the series.
It's that voice of yours that does it.
Yeah, that's what it was. So the Derelict Tomb managed to win the Parsec Award for long form small cast fiction.
Woohoo!
So
congratulations, man.
Thank you. Now I have 2 of these puppies.
You can like have them like bookends now.
Yeah, now I'm 2-time podcast award-winning douchebag.
I've known you were a 2-timer for years.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, right. So other than that, the usual insanity of trying to get things done. God, I need a new website. We need a new website. I have got to sit down and do that at some point and just have not had the will.
I need to get a new website as well. You know, the author website feels like it's, you know, from the 90s.
Yeah.
It's not, but it feels like it is.
Yeah, it's bad. Even my father said, your website looks like shit. And I was like, oh, God damn it. Anyway, so lots of crazy going on in my life, but nothing too interesting to people outside of my life, if that makes sense.
All right. Let's see. For me, I had a tooth pulled last week, so
boo.
Yeah, that's not fun. So I'm barely able to speak this week. The episode that you're getting here is the one recorded just before the tooth came out. So the one after this is where the effect of how this is sounding is going to be more pronounced. It's hard pronouncing things, and since I'm writing by Dragon, that's challenging.
I'm not surprised, but you're still managed to get it work.
Well, I started writing pretty much day before yesterday. Excuse me. I wrote a scene the day before yesterday and another scene yesterday, and I wrote a full chapter today. So this is good. I'm getting back into the swing of things, able to do things.
Yay!
The audiobook for Volume 2 of the Empire of Bone saga is still in that weird headed to retail space where it's been released by ACX, but it hasn't quite made it anywhere yet. Probably
Don't you
because
love
of the
that?
holidays.
Don't you love that? It's like, yeah, we got it. Everything's cool and groovy. We're gonna sit on it.
Well, it's been almost a week that it's been heading to retail, so it feels like it's being sat on somewhere in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll get out. It'll get out there sooner or later. I'm not concerned about it. It'll make it in
Yeah.
time for the holidays, I hope.
Oh yeah. Well, I gave up. That ship has sailed for evolution. That ship has sailed for evolution. Unfortunately.
I had two different anthologies that I was in come out recently. The Luck is Not a Factor with Chris Kennedy and Bob's Bar Volume 2 or Number 2, whatever it is, that came out with a bunch of other authors just a week ago. And for one brief shining moment, it fired my author ranking into the top 1,000 in all books in Amazon.
Wow.
Yeah, that didn't last long. Next day, it was down to like 1,500.
Still.
But yeah, it shot me up to heights that I had not seen before. So that tells me that a ton of people have bought that particular anthology. And I hope that after they're done reading it, some fraction of them come and visit me.
Well, that's always the hope, right? And that's why you do the anthology to begin with.
I've said it before. That's exactly why I do the anthologies, to connect with other authors and their reader base and give them something that they may find interesting and come and see me.
Nobody wants to come see you, Terry.
Yes, they do. Everyone wants to come see me.
No, they don't. You've got a face for writing, not a face for any other thing.
This is true.
And the less said about your voice, the better.
Ooh, yeah, that's totally true. I don't know, with this week off, I don't think that I'm going to finish writing Raid on Terra by the end of the month. It'll probably be the first week of next month.
Gotcha.
But this entire week of being down with this tooth removed pretty well messed me up. After having it removed, 2 days later, it started bleeding and I had to go back, and it's just been a pain. Just been a literal pain.
I remember working after had the tooth pulled, and yeah, it can be bad. It can be bad. It went away pretty fast though.
Mine is kind of creeping in there. It's still very, very much so tender.
Oh, we have to chew on one side of our mouth.
Yeah, for like 3 months, 4 months.
Ah. Ah. Ah.
That's what I said too.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
On the other hand, dinner might be a shake tonight.
I had shakes for several nights after I had the tooth pulled. Yeah. The Smoothie King was my new favorite place in the universe.
I've got some orange sherbet down there just waiting for me. But in any case, what I'd like to talk to you about today, this episode, it's not going to be where we get along. No one gets along in this episode.
We're not going to get along?
No one will get along in this episode. It's forbidden.
Why wouldn't people get along in this episode?
Because I want to talk about herding the cats of characters with different opinions and goals all together into making a story.
I don't agree with this conversation.
I knew that's what was going to happen. And here we go. You have a bunch of different characters in your books. Now, that admittedly, you've got a lot of Marines, a lot of fleet types there that are all on board one ship. So yours may be somewhat different than mine as far as your space. But if you start digging into your stuff with Black on Earth, if you will, yes, you've got the SWAT teams, you've got the scientists, you've got everybody. Admittedly, the fact that they're all running and fighting for their lives tends to motivate one to work along with everybody else.
Yes, that's usually a very important factor, and tends to leave all the other personal shit behind because everybody has the same fear of getting consumed by that thing. Yeah.
But do you ever have any characters that just step so far out of line that one of your other characters just wants to punch them in the face and may actually do so?
Oh, hell yes. Oh, hell yes. Where would be the fun without the friction? That's part of the fun.
Then that is where we begin. The friction.
The friction.
How do you foresee the friction, or do you even look ahead to it? You just throw in whatever crayons you got on hand, shake the box, and see what gets marked up.
It depends. I mean, with the Black, I had all the engineering crew who three of the main characters are in the engineering crew, even though it's only there's out of four of them basically. And I think I only have three, maybe four on the rig of the rig workers, and they don't have, maybe respect is the wrong word, but it may be the right word, between one another. And so the two groups are immediately at odds. And of course, two of the engineering crew are such dickheads that they have brilliant, but dickheads that they have alienated the entire crew of Leaguer before the other characters even arrive. So all the quote unquote blue collar folk absolutely fucking hate them from day one.
I am thrown back to the movie Armageddon.
Oh God. Yeah.
At the very beginning of that, Bruce Willis's character is talking to his daughter, and she's ragging him about the fact that he's never been there for her. And then, as a point in fact, says, well, such and such character played by Buscemi had to teach me the whole thing about sex. What? Where is that sumbitch grabbing the shotgun? Going chasing down Buscemi. Oh! You remember that scene?
Yes, I remember that scene quite well.
Yeah, that pretty much set the tone for the whole goddamn movie right there.
Unfortunately, that told me it was going to be a piece of shit, and yes, it was.
It was a fucking great piece of movie.
Oh,
for God. What it was.
For what it was, until you got to the last 30 minutes were so absolutely ridiculous.
Let's not bring science into this.
I'm not even talking about science. I'm just talking about common fucking sense.
We're going to fly out to this asteroid, but we can't set off the nuke on the surface. We're going to have to drill down 100 meters.
Because otherwise...
That's going to make a freaking difference.
Yeah. Anyway, don't get me started. Don't get me started. Anyway, yes.
Oh, and by the way, if you shatter a asteroid and it still strikes the Earth, all that kinetic energy still happens. You're still fucked. Just saying.
Well, only one half got loose. It's okay. It's just going to land in the water. If you want to read a book where they actually do that scientifically and everything else, you need to read Lucifer's Hammer by Jerry Pournelle and Larry Niven. It is exactly about a big ass comet slamming into the ocean. And it has one of my favorite scenes of genre fiction of all fucking time. Surfers who know they're dead trying to surf a 1,000-foot tsunami. It's one of the coolest, most ridiculous scenes in all of literature.
Surf's up!
Well, these people are fucked. They're dead anyway. They're all going to drown. It's surf or die, baby.
There's somebody that's dedicated to their art.
Yeah, I just thought it was really funny because I'd never thought about that. But yeah, if a bunch of surfers are out there and they're trapped and tsunamis coming that they don't know about, yeah, what are you going to do?
Surf, baby.
Yes, you really have no choice. So yeah, that was a pretty cool scene. Anyway, you should read that book anyway because it's a good book. It's a good book. It too has frictional characters.
Well, yeah, the good ones do.
Peter F. Hamilton and a lot of his stuff has got he goes even further. He makes them from different cultures. Instead of just having a monoculture, he's got the Edenists, he's got the space merchants, and then he's got the military, and they all have different goals and different ways of doing things and different ways of thinking about the afterlife, about tactics and strategy. They all have these different ideas, and it does cause a lot of friction. It takes a long time for them to cooperate to get to where they need to go. And that stuff is really interesting to me because I love to see these characters who shouldn't fit, don't fit, but have to fit to accomplish whatever it is. So it's one of these situations where after every fight, one of them is going to slug the other one just because. During the fight, they will kind of hang out and take care of one another, but as soon as, because they have no choice. But once that fight's over, they're going to go right back to beating the crap out of each other.
It reminds me of when I was in basic training.
Oh God, I
because
can't wait for this. Settle back, kids. It's story time.
it's a very short story. There was, of course, some asshole in my basic training company. He's just a dick, just a total dick. But there was a confrontation with a different training company, and I'm standing here right next to dickhead and getting in somebody else's face because he might be an asshole, but he's my asshole. It's very territory driven.
Yeah.
It
Oh
didn't
yeah.
matter. It literally did not matter that I did not like this guy.
No, it's really gang mentality.
Yeah.
Tribe. Maybe tribe is a better word than
Tribal.
gang.
Tribal is probably
Tribal.
a better word, but it literally didn't matter that he was an asshole and that I hated the son of a bitch. I'd have punched somebody in the face on his behalf if need came to be. And I suspect that the same would be true the other way around.
Yeah, more than likely. If it wasn't, then the drill sergeants didn't do their job.
And the drill sergeants, they did their job. They knew what they were doing.
That's what they're there for, to remind you that you actually do kind of have to work together and take care of each other. Because if you don't take care of the guy next to you, he ain't going to take care of you.
When I was in the military, that was in the 80s. When I went through the basic training was 1983, so a long time ago. The goal then, which God only knows what it is now, was to basically break down each individual and rebuild them as a team. Rebuild them as a set of people that work together as opposed to individuals.
Right.
And they were very good at it. I've heard little bits of story here and now that that's not what basic training does anymore, which makes me very sad.
Well, evolution.
Not let the fuckers die. Let them die.
Only in my books. I can kill everybody and not feel bad about it. That's not really true.
What do you do when you run out of characters? You finish killing everybody off, you go, wait a minute. Shit, I've got nobody left.
I just go to the graveyard and invent some new human beings and have them stumble into it. That's how our break worked. Hey, I need to tell this story. What do I need? I need a SWAT team. I need more CDC and a bunch of really innocent people about to get fucked up. Yeah, here we go.
If you were Scott Sigler, you wouldn't care if your main characters made it.
Ah, that's not true. That's not true.
He fixed it in the rewrite, but I haven't listened to the rewrite. So
I've done such horrible things to main characters. Go ask anybody who read Closet Treats, and especially those that loved it. The horrible things I did to those characters. A lot of them are still waiting for me to get back there. Anyway, how you deal with the tribal stuff is you have to insert that common goal. You have to basically broaden the tribe, or at least create alliances, if you will, between those characters to make it work.
Tribalism is an excellent way of describing how you get separate characters together. It doesn't matter whether you've got a single goal or if it's banding together because they have the outcome that they want is all relatively close enough together to where their individual goals lead them towards where they're going. You may have somebody reach their end of their goal before everybody else does and then turn off and fuck them up a little bit. That happens a lot in stories too.
Yeah, and you could also use that to break down, or have one group trying to actively, one up the other, where the alliance is temporary and then breaks up, and then somebody on the side of the alliance that betrays them has second thoughts. That's another really great way to just F up everything.
I'm thinking Lord of the Rings here. Yeah, I know you don't want to hear that, but when Boromir tried to take the ring for himself.
Right. Yeah.
For whatever reasons he thought were right, even though he very quickly realized he'd made a terrible mistake, it was too late. He'd broken the group. They were done.
Yeah, that particular expedition was dead, and he had only himself to blame.
Well, he didn't have much to blame. He died very shortly thereafter.
Yeah, well, he kind of paid the ultimate price for his foolishness.
Sometimes when you fuck up, you've got to step up. And that means you do something that results in your own death to make up for what you just did. And that's also a great storyline to throw in.
It is. It's cliche, and you see it. You've seen it so many freaking times. The trick is and this is our job as storytellers, is to make the character compelling enough that we care as readers, that we give a shit, that we say, oh, well, yeah, it was cliche, but man, that was awesome. And it was what needed to happen.
Sometimes the cliched thing does need to happen. It's the only natural outgrowth of what you're looking at. It's a cliche for a reason.
Yeah. And sometimes, I'm sorry, characters have to die. They do, because the story demands it.
Boromir had to die.
Yeah. Boromir had to die. I've got characters that I absolutely love who I killed. And because I had to do it. I needed it to drive the story forward. I needed it to help drive the characters. And it sucks when you have to do it, but it needed to get done.
When I was watching Jupiter Ascending, it also has what is Sean Bean? Is that his name? Yeah, that's his name. Yeah. Has him in there as well. So I'm sitting here watching the movie going, okay, here it is. Here's his death, because Sean Bean dies in everything. There's nothing that he goes through that he doesn't die. And he actually made it all the way through and lived, which shocked the living hell out of me.
That's because you didn't watch enough BBC. If you really want to see him do good work, Sharp, the Sharp series, which takes place during the Napoleonic Wars, is amazing. He's the main character in there. But yeah, he dies a lot in American movies. And he dies a lot in Game of Thrones in a big, bad way.
Wait a second. He's only been on Game of Thrones once. How can he die more than once?
No, he's only been in one season.
They can't bring him back to life and kill him again, can they?
No. But they killed him physically, mentally, and spiritually all throughout that one season. They killed everything that had anything to do with him. And then they kept killing him in his memory the whole way down.
Oh, man.
Yeah, brutal.
Here's a side note of something that I'd heard recently. You've heard that George R.R. Martin has another show coming to television?
No.
I can't remember what the name of it is, but I heard a little bit of the story behind it. And there's something to be said here for writers. This was a novel or a series of novels, I don't know which, that he sold back in the 70s. And the terms of the sale also included TV rights. He was not consulted on this show coming to television. He didn't even know it was happening till the announcement took place.
Oh, nice.
Surprise!
That's nice.
They had all the rights. They could do it. So beware, writers, of what you sign away, because it may come back and haunt you when you're a gazillionaire like George R.R. Martin.
I don't feel sad for him. He doesn't need the money.
He needs to finish that damn series.
Oh, God. You know, it's funny you mentioned that, because it is something that is also a topic we need to discuss in the future sometime.
What's that?
The fear of closing a series or finding the end of it.
Not a fear that I have.
Oh, of course not, but we need to put you in that mind space just to mess with you. Anyway, what else about characters? What makes this interesting to what other things besides just personality friction?
Goal friction. They've got different things that they want to accomplish. There was a movie recently where they did the movie version of The Man from U.N.C.L.E. And if you're familiar at all with that story, or saw the movie with Cavill and I don't even know who the bad guy was off the top of my head, but it's a Russian spy and an American spy that they have very different goals during that entire movie. And so at various points along the way, while they are still meandering along in the same direction, they're banging heads and maybe doing things that aren't in the other party's best interest. And that made the movie fun. There's a particular scene where they're in a speedboat running from people that are shooting at them. And the Russian turns the boat so quick that it throws the American out of the boat completely. He swims to shore. He finds a truck. He gets in the truck and sees that there's a lunch basket there. grabs the lunch basket. There's wine. There's other Italian food. He turns on the radio, and all the while that the music is playing, you can see the boats going by in front of him with the speedboat, and then the gunboat chasing it and shooting along, then coming back the other direction. The opera singing into opera music going on in the background while he's shooting up the speedboat, and it catches fire and starts sinking. And he's just sitting there eating and watching it. It's like, yep, this is entertainment.
Oh my God.
He eventually drives out the boat and drives the truck out and lands it on the gunboat and then pulls the Russian out of the water. But it's hysterical watching this because he just doesn't care. And it fits so well because they'd been banging heads so much that actually stepped beyond the pale and made it entertaining. Watching him just do that.
I think that's also what made Good Omens such a great book. Neil Gaiman, Terry Pratchett, because shut up, because the angel and the demon have to work together, and it is just so funny to listen to them talk, back and forth to one another. And that's when you're talking about Russian, U.S. or West, whatever. And when you put those characters together who should just absolutely loathe one another and do, and force them to work together, you just have wonderful things happen. Wonderful things happen. I mean, our favorite movies are the ones where you have the buddy cop movies that are like Running Scared and things like that. That also is a key unique feature of that kind of relationship.
Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, Lethal Weapon. You take two very disparate people and put them together, and but that
nobody does crazy like what's his name.
Mel Gibson.
Yeah, ever since I've seen him in the post-apocalyptic stuff, Road Warrior, he's always been a whack job.
I think he became a whack job after Hamlet. Anyway, that'll do it. Shakespeare will do it to you every time. What are the ways? Good God! What other ways besides goal and culture?
Love interests.
I knew you were going to go there. I knew it.
Two guys or two girls, for that matter, interested in the same woman or man. They might have to all work together, but somebody better watch out for a proverbial shiv to be stuck in their back.
That is a great way to add friction. Just like if you have the one person, their current lover and their former lover having to work together, or a spouse and former lover having to work together, or hell, take that person out of it, is just the lover and the former whatever having to work together, and both of them loving that person that
actually caused me to buy a book that I have not yet listened to that I think is going to be interesting. I'd have to look up the title, but it involves the main character being someone that has to investigate a murder inside a magical academy that he used to be a member of, but was thrown out of when, after a couple of years, they finally realized that he had no magic whatsoever. He'd been pulling a giant con over their head the entire damn time and got himself thrown out. And now he's coming back to investigate a murder, and his former love interest is now the head of the guards there. Oh, awkward.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's going to work out well.
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff that really can give you so many plot points, but can lead to so many interesting interactions.
They both have to solve this murder. They both have to deal with the fact that undoubtedly somebody's going to be trying to kill them, but their own past is going to be right there in their face the entire damn time
and get in the way.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you're writing a romance, you have that friction slowly work into something else. If you're writing genre fiction suspense, you can have that relationship slowly grow into something else.
I think that I suspect, just based on the cover and the tone, that it's not going to grow into something horrific, that it's going to either stay neutral or edge back towards some type of reconciliation.
Yeah.
But it could surprise me and go the other way.
So, we've seen that where former love interests betray one another out of spite, rage, whatever, sense of abandonment, whatever you want to throw on there. and really F up a story.
Where's Bob? Oh, he went off to go to this other place. That's where all the bad guys are. Why is he going there? Well, I might have said something about,
Yeah.
what we were looking for was there. Why would you do that? He's going to die. Silence.
I think you just answered your own question. It is so much fun because we've all seen that. I mean, not people trying to kill each other. Maybe we have. We've all seen that kind of situation happen with friends or whatever, or been in the middle of it, where you have to deal with your ex in some situation that is hella uncomfortable. And as a writer, you can decide, okay, he left her, she left him.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, but it does change the dynamic of the character who's talking at the time, whose thoughts we're in. It changes the dynamic. It's going to color it. It's going to give you a real chance to play with what they're thinking.
Yeah, see, the type of story there that I think you could really get your teeth into is if, say, you've got a man and a woman, and the man leaves the woman for her best friend, and then later on, all three of them have to get back together. Everybody's pretty much betrayed everybody else. There's all kinds of fermentable ground there for the third party to hate both of the new couple.
There's a character in Babylon 5. He's got like 20 wives or some bullshit. And all these were political marriages. So he hates pretty much all of them, and they hate him too.
that can have its own level of fun.
Yes, yes. And it's kind of like, what if they all decided to get together and kill it? Or just one of them? How would you possibly figure out which one of them it was? I mean, that's a really interesting way to look at it too, with a polyculture.
You poisoned his food, and then wife number 7 ate it and died.
Exactly.
And wife number 4 goes, "Oops, I hated the bitch anyway."
or even better, well, one less share.
That's another thing. Shares. If you're all after something that's worth money,
treasure,
eliminating somebody out of the group gets you a bigger share. That's a great motivator to cause some friction.
Yeah, and you can do it where you slowly maybe take one or two of them off, but near the time they're getting the treasure, or right after they get the treasure, then all these inexplicable things begin to happen. And suddenly people are dying, or you do the Raiders of the Lost Ark thing where the somewhat bad guy tries to take the treasure, gets killed, somebody else grabs it. I mean, there's so many different ways, so many different things you can do with that. And that can really make the characters fun, because a character could be saying something that is completely misunderstood by somebody else who did not get the nuance that this person was literally telling them to their face, "I'm going to kill you."
It's always fun looking back and going, "Damn it, I missed that."
Yeah, damn it. How did I miss that? How did I miss that? As the bullet entered his brain, he was thinking, how did I miss this? How did I not see this coming?
As a little bit of a side piece, I hear that they're doing another Raiders of the Lost Ark movie, probably involving him and a walker. I'm not really sure, but God, I wish they could go back to the Nazis. They made so much better enemies than the Soviets.
Well, for that kind of story, and I really wished that Raiders had continued, or they had told a lot more stories before that happened. They had a lot of years to play with and a lot of incidents to play with. They just chose not to.
Frankly, Nazis make great villains.
Well, and the other thing,
it doesn't matter who they are, just the uniform that they wear makes them the villain. I mean, you look at the Raiders of the Lost Ark movies, the original ones, and all the people that are just soldiers there, you don't ever think, that guy might change sides. No, that never enters your brain. He's a villain. He's a Nazi.
No, basically it was like, if they're wearing uniform, if they're wearing black, they're an important one. If they're not, they're red shirts. They're red shirts. They're just there to fill out the scenery and make it look impressive, but they're all going to die. Every single one of them are going to die. So yeah, I can understand that.
So what other forms of friction do you see, Paul?
Well, we've gone over goal. Cultural can be whatever you want it to be. Like, for instance, monogamous, a person who believes in monogamy having to work with somebody who's polygamous.
I like your story where you talk about an angel having to work with a demon.
Yeah, that too.
That's two different cultures right there that are diametrically opposed.
Right, and smashing into one another on a continual basis.
There's another aspect of that, though. Did you ever see any of the show that they had on recently called Lucifer?
I've read an issue or two of the comic. I never saw the show.
He is literally the devil. The main character is literally the devil.
On vacation.
On vacation in LA, because where else would one go? And he's got with him Maz, a demon. And there's all kinds of trouble that results from the fact that she's a demon. He's trying to change course. She's not necessarily trying to change course.
Hey, you made me this way. What?
And then you've got his brother showing up during it and causing friction. So you've got him stuck in the middle by choice between the two cultures, the one from heaven, the one from hell. It's pretty interesting.
And then he has to try and mediate it all.
And then he's got the earthly culture that he has to pretty much conceal himself from while still being involved with it. Well, where he doesn't really fit in all that well.
Harry Dresden.
Yeah.
Harry Dresden.
Harry Dresden's biggest problem is Harry Dresden, which is a whole nother set of friction right there when your main character is his own worst enemy.
Yes, but I was thinking of his collisions with normal humans.
I was thinking more of his collisions with the wardens.
Yeah, well, that too. But I mean, just in general, he does not function in the normal world. He never
met a power group that he didn't offend in some way or another.
No, because that wouldn't be the character. That wouldn't be the character.
He's the kind of guy that shows up to a meeting of the Council of Wizards in a terry cloth bathrobe. It happened. It actually was written that way. He shows up in a robe because robes are required, but it's a fucking bathrobe.
Yes, this is like my my brother-in-law who wears a tie that says in binary, "I hate ties." I'm figuring if his prick boss ever figures that out, he's going to get fired on the spot. Anyway, that notwithstanding. So basically, we've got cultural, we've got goal, and we've got emotional, I guess,
and
for lack
of and
themselves.
Just them.
So why are misanthropic characters so fun?
Because somebody that just gets along creates no drama. You've got to have drama to have a story that's interesting. Admittedly, my characters that I write, they don't fight much, but I like putting outside elements that force them to work together. My heroes are not so fighty amongst themselves. I could certainly write a story where they're fighty amongst themselves. But that's just not the way I roll, and it's worked out well for me so far. So you've got the external conflict from a group and the internal conflict of the group. It's kind of awkward when you have both.
Well, it's strange you mentioned that, because in Derelict, once they're on Trident, I have a couple of decisions to make, because I can either introduce some of that personal friction or keep it away. I think my instinct is to keep it away as much as possible, because these folks are in a combat situation from the beginning of that bullshit to the end of it. From here on out, it's going to be one big bad thing. And I have a feeling that they would, considering the short time frame, that a lot of that personal shit would get pushed aside. You're shaking your head.
I'm just having an off-color memory of watching Tropic Thunder.
Oh my God.
Robert Downey Jr. going, "What do you mean by you people?" And having the black guy look at him, "What do you mean by you people?" Totally improper thought, but something you said brought that to mind.
I don't know what, because I didn't go there at all. Crying out loud. Anyway, it is It's something that I could put in there, but I don't think I'm going to have time or space for it. And I think it would destroy the pacing of the story.
That's one of the things. You've got to pick and choose your friction wisely because friction is like brakes. It slows down the pace
Yeah,
of your main
in a big
plot.
way.
So when you have friction, you can't have your story dragged to a complete halt because of infighting.
If I'm going to put friction, I'll do it in the sequel. I'll do it. I'll do it after the scene. I'll have the friction take place after they've got done whatever they're done, what needed to get done after that action scene.
Sure are glad we survived that.
Exactly. Exactly. That's where you put that shit, you know? God, took you enough rounds.
Were you missing on purpose?
Naval SEAL looks at their Army Ranger and says, took you enough rounds. Yeah.
Oh my God. You want to talk about bringing friction on yourself? When I went to air assault school in the Army, which was their rappelling school, they had a guy in my class that was an Army Ranger training for special forces, doing various things. And the instructors like to go around and say, what do you want to be? And the answer is supposed to be air assault. And they got to that guy and he looks down at his chest and looked back up and said, I already am. You can imagine he then became their bitch for the rest of that 3-week course. And that's what he wanted. It is obviously what he wanted when he got there.
I'm going to be a pain in your ass.
It was amusing for the rest of us to watch because it focused the other instructors like a laser beam on this one guy and took a little bit of heat off of us that we would have normally, I'm sure, gotten while they're busy just ragging him, running him to death. And we're like, would I ever do that? No. No, I would not.
I don't want that kind of punishment. It's the kid who sits there like Bugs Bunny. If I do it, I get a whooping. I do it. Yeah. Yeah. I think you have to be willing to do that as a writer too.
Now I'm thinking about it, writing a character like that, somebody that's willing to look at somebody that's looking for an expected answer and go, yeah, you're shit. I'm already bigger than you. And know that they're going to get the shit and just accept it and draw it in and demand it for themselves. That would make an interesting story. Telling that guy's story of going through air assault school would be a lot more entertaining than telling my story of going through it.
Yeah, well, yeah, this is true. This is true. That would be the story you want to tell.
You've got to pick, when you're telling the story, the point of view that is the most entertaining for the reader. It's not going to be the guy watching the shit happen. It's going to be the guy the shit is happening to.
There's only one book I can think of really that, and I'm sure everybody's going to bring up shit. I can't, the name of the book is gone right out of my head. Was A Prayer for Owen Meany, where the entire story is told from the main character's friend. We don't get to see anything from Owen's point of view. Everything is told by his buddy. Everything. But there's so many interactions and there's so much, reading between the lines that you get what was going on inside Owen's head. And Owen never lied, so it didn't really matter. You got the truth from him always. And that's how that worked. And that's one of my favorite books because it's just so well written. I guess another book that would kind of be that is was it Lamb, the Gospel of Jesus Christ according to his childhood friend Biff. Which is another incredibly awesome book. Incredibly awesome.
Is that like the 13th Apostle?
No.
You know what I'm thinking of, don't you? Dogma,
yeah. No.
Chris Rock is the 13th Apostle.
Yeah, it's sort of kind of humorous like that because Biff is just, there's a scene where Christ wants to know about what sex is, but he's not allowed to have it. So he gives Biff the money to go have sex in the deal. Biff comes back out and Jesus, Christ looks at him and says, well, what'd you think? He goes, I don't know. I think I have to try it again to know. It's shit like that, where Biff's beating the hell out of an angel because he's so stupid. It's stuff like that where you get that emotional bond with the characters that are actually the main focus of the story. The narrator is part of it, is completely part of it.
I would say in that particular story, the story wasn't about Jesus. It was about Biff.
It was and it wasn't. It was and it wasn't. Because
things might have been happening to Jesus, but the viewpoint of Biff seems much more important to the narration than Jesus.
It absolutely is, because Biff is trying to make a point. And so, yeah. It's the same thing with A Prayer for Owen Meany. It is what the character picks up. It is what the character is thinking about. It's the character putting all those memories into context of what was going on at the time in their lives. That's what made it so interesting to me. But Owen, when the story ended, I read that book in basically 3 sittings. And the last sitting I had, I started at 7 p.m. and I finished the next morning while the sun was coming up. I didn't stop reading it. And when I got to the end, I was crying my eyes out. It's just such a fantastic book. But you get to the end and you feel the character's pain about what happened to his friend. It hits you so hard because the narration has been so good from that other character who would normally be dull as dishwater if he wasn't telling the story of Owen Meany. And that's what makes the book fascinating. That's what makes the character fascinating. I know there's some John Irving haters out there, but you can suck the largest appendage on my foot. Anyway.
That would be your big toe.
Yeah. Suck my big toe. I was going to say something else, but backed out at the last second. In the interest of not having to edit that shit, I decided to opt for something a little more clean.
Yeah, I'm sure you fooled everyone.
I'm sure I did. I'm sure somebody was like, he's not going to say, oh, he didn't do it.
No one would have been shocked if you said it. No one that knows you at all would be shocked.
So I would say if you're going to tell a story like that, then the narrator has to be spot on, has to be dead on.
If you're going to have conflict in your stories, picking who to reflect that conflict is very important. Sometimes it's best not, if you're going to have 2 guys get into a fist fight, it's better to have a third person be the viewpoint for that fight than to have one of the participants.
Speaking along these lines, would you ever have an AI tell a story?
Sure.
Because they're like the ultimate omniscient narrator, given this correct situation.
Given the correct situation, they could be, but they're not omniscient. Not in the universes that I write them.
Well,
they are just machine sentiences.
Fine, but what I was really talking about was they hear everything, they see everything based on the cameras that are in the walls, the whole 9 yards. Stress analysis on voices, facial tics, whole 9 yards, body language. You could tell a hell of a story without ever getting into someone's thoughts.
You could. One of the limitations that I place on the sentient AIs that I use that are friendly to the characters is they have subroutines that monitor people in their private quarters. Those subroutines never speak to the main routine. The information that is gathered there never makes its way back unless someone says computer and there's a request for a connection. Then the attention of the main is brought in.
Right.
But unless it happens, that's a walled off piece of intelligence. They're aware if somebody is injured, so it can summon help if someone is injured. But that's its purpose, is to keep people's privacy in a situation where the computer can see all.
Did you have any privacy in the military?
Some.
Very little, though.
You had to make sure that you took care of it yourself. If you wanted a little bit of privacy, you could arrange it, but you had to make sure that you had your eye on the ball.
Right.
Pick the place to go, pick the time to go there. Privacy was a very important thing. The drill sergeants would, after hours, there would be allowances made for privacy, because you've got to give them a little room to let go, or they're going to lose their minds.
If you're on a ship or a base, especially if it's on a ship, with a very finite amount of space, you have to have those places and you have to have those moments. Whether it's a character who just goes and hides in the cargo bay for an hour or two while they're not on duty, just to basically just unplug, or somebody who chooses to go into VR when they're not on duty to do stuff.
And another thing with places like that is the officers conspicuously do not know what is going on below decks. They make a point of not knowing what is happening below decks. That's what the petty officers are for. That's for what other people are for. There are times and places where you just don't want an officer. And so there's a hierarchy of behavior that is learned, that grows up in a shipboard life, where the enlisted people can have their privacy from the overseeing eyes of the officers, while they still have discipline from the petty officers.
For the non-coms.
Yeah. So there's people will come up with ways to segment privacy for themselves, even if it's all psychological.
Okay. But see, this also works with government institutions. It works with, actually, if you think about it, any tribe that is sequestered in an area, this is going to be an issue and can cause a lot of friction in and of itself, because if you were telling that story about the guy you didn't like, if you had to work with him for 3 or 4 years and you didn't have space to get away from him and he kept doing the bullshit that made you mad, sooner or later you would snap. Or somebody else would.
Conflict within the tribe is acceptable. Conflict with outside the tribe is not. That's the way it was put.
But even conflict within the tribe can get out of hand.
There are certain limitations that are placed upon it. But you're much more likely to get into a shouting match with somebody that you don't like inside the tribe and have the consequences be fairly minor than to get into a confrontation tribe to tribe.
Yeah, tribe to tribe, bad. Tribal warfare, bad. Intertribal warfare, worse.
Now, my drill instructors, I had 2 drill instructors. They had their own intertribal relationship issues. One of them was infantry. The other one was a tanker. So they had their own issues amongst each other. We mostly never saw their issues, but occasionally we did. For example, the infantry guy was talking to us, explaining something inside the barracks, and the tanker walks up the stairs behind him, walks up behind him, grabs the adjustment strap on the back of his LBE and yanks it down as hard as he can. So that he's like this, and he can't do anything, and his arms are up here like this. And then the tanker just keeps on talking while he's taking and putting him in the office and closing the door behind him. And you can hear some banging around in there as he's trying to figure out how to get out of what he's doing. And the tanker just picks up the trail of what he's saying right there on the spot. And he acts like nothing ever happened.
Okay.
And we're all standing there going, how do we react to this? What the fuck do we do to this?
Well, if I remember correctly, you're not supposed to say or acknowledge a goddamn thing. If
none of us
nothing happened, nothing happened. Hey, that was cool. No, don't say anything. And try not to laugh.
Definitely don't laugh.
Because if the guy who did that, it doesn't kick your ass, the guy who was done to will kick your ass.
Yep.
These are the kind of little rules that and little gotchas that make having multiple characters like this so much fun. And it, you don't have, these can be other big characters or anything else. They don't have to be on screen the whole time, but having that sort of friction is wonderful because it gives the story flavor. If everybody got along kumbaya, there wouldn't be a story.
I suspect, based on what I saw of their interaction, that was a prank rather than something really negative. So I choose to see it that way, but I could be wrong. It could have been something more.
Could have been somebody did something to somebody else in the non-com. Yeah. Or yes, it could have just been, I'm a tanker and you're scum.
They did have some words back and forth in front of everybody about the benefits of being a tanker and or infantry. So there
Yeah.
was a bit of a rival. If listeners, if you don't know this, inside the army there is a rivalry between infantry and tankers. That's just all there is to it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So intergroup rivalry is
Oh,
another
yes.
form of friction that you have, i.e., you got people working together like a guy that's a law enforcement officer and a guy that's a career criminal. They've got their own subcultures. If they have to work together, there's going to be friction.
The show Leverage, where you've got the former FBI insurance investigator who's now put together an entire fleet of criminals to go shut down other criminals. Yep. Friction is always there because half these folks are still trying to be thieves. White Collar, another one like that. Where
White Collar, I watched a lot of that one. Yeah,
where you've basically got their characters working together, but there's law enforcement and a career criminal who brings career criminals into the mix. And the feds, and they're always wondering if this information is meant to be a dodge so they can do something else, or if it's really to accomplish the goal they want to accomplish. And that adds a whole host of friction rather, that wouldn't otherwise exist. It makes the show fun.
I'm trying to remember what the name of the show was, but there was a show about spies.
A show about spies?
It was about a spy in particular that was written off by the agency and dropped in Miami.
Oh, Burn Notice.
Burn Notice. Watching the whole spies versus spies sort of thing was interesting, as well as a bit of conflict in there.
Then a former Navy SEAL is this, spies, bunch of sissies.
Bunch of whiny little girls.
Bunch of whiny little girls. Maybe that's what it was.
I think that's how he phrased it. But then again, you've got Bruce Campbell playing that role. What else is he going to say?
Well, yeah, it's the Chin. The Chin only knows how to say 5 different sentences.
And then you've got the crazy terrorist girlfriend.
Yeah, the former IRA bomber. Yeah.
Shall we kill them?
Mixing all that together just creates a cauldron of crazy. And that's
what his mom.
Oh, yeah. And then his mom. I mean, friction on all sides. And this poor guy has got this overarching goal and everything's getting in the way of it. Every goddamn thing that happens gets in the way of his ultimate goal.
Well, the way they wrote that show is the character had his goals, and anytime he had his goals, his friends would be the first thing to get in his way of accomplishing those.
Exactly.
And it was kind of written that way.
Yeah. And if you took all that out, the show would have lasted one season. If you took all that out,
it let's be honest, it ended because they eliminated some of the intergroup conflict.
I never watched the last 2 or 3 seasons of it. So
I watched it till the end, and things got too easy. They changed the thrust of it to an outside bit of trouble being the focus rather than the inside friction. It was much more interesting when it was the inside friction.
Yeah, I just had to wrap it up. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, that is a wonderful place to have that. The group dynamics. You were talking about rivalry. What if you've got somebody who got the promotion and somebody else didn't? What if you've got 2 characters who are going for the same job or same rank or whatever else? There's that competition, and that competition can really affect how they go after their goals and what they do, and can cause a hell of a lot of friction.
Now, see, I'm not a specific idea if something isn't coming to mind with that, of a show that's already happened, but I can see a show where, like you say, a promotion is at stake here, and you've got 2 characters, striving hard for it, and the main character losing that particular fight.
Yeah.
The other guy getting the promotion, and then finds out that if he'd have gotten that promotion, it would have been hell on earth, basically. That it was a benefit that he failed. And his boss says, you actually won this. That's why I didn't give you the promotion.
Yeah, you can have that too. There's a nice story into it. I think The Shield did that a couple times. There are ways to do it. I would say if you want to learn how to do this, go watch the good ensemble shows and take a look at how those characters bump into each other and how that friction is generated. And even best friends can get into a tiff. In fact, sometimes it is the best kind of friction is to have two best friends get into a tiff.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh my God. Where do you start? I mean, there are some seasons that's all about friction.
And they're entertaining, aren't they?
And they're entertaining. They drive the story, and every time you think the group is going to fall apart, they don't. Except in the last season when they do in a big, big way. And because they fall apart, a lot of people get hurt. A lot of people get hurt. And that's the way it needs to be. Is you have to have these people working together to get something accomplished, no matter how much they dislike one another. And that dislike you can use to drive every single piece of the drama and the story.
Drama is based on conflict. If you don't have conflict, you have no drama.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just writing a very simple story. You're going to have something going on there. I mean, Alien, one of the things that makes Aliens and Aliens such great movies is because of that friction. You've got
man, game over.
I was thinking the original Alien, you got the guys below decks that work below decks, and they hate the officers with a freaking passion, are always bitching about how low their pay is. There's all that friction going on from the get-go of that film. And then, of course, in Alien, you have the Marines versus the company versus Ripley versus the android versus everything that goes on in there. Oh, no, yeah, there's these things trying to eat us. So you have all these different modes of conflict there as well. And it makes everybody more interesting. This makes for a good story. Just go do it. Friction is wonderful. Do not apply oil until absolutely necessary. And if you do, use a very thin layer. These gears were meant to grind.
No, you're approaching that whole analogy wrong.
Okay.
Add as much oil as you like. Just remember, oil is flammable.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I don't know how flammable oil is. I like the analogy, but it's missing something.
Yeah, maybe so. We'll have to work on our analogy skills. Maybe we need an episode on analogies.
I don't know. I still love the line, these gears were meant to grind. It's a good line. I need to use that somewhere.
You need to use that somewhere. Well, folks, if you'd like to talk to us about inter-party conflict, any inter-character conflict, extra character conflict, whatever conflict you'd like to talk about, send us a note at show@deadrobotsociety.com. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/DRS podcast. You can get our audio episodes. Where can they get our audio episodes? I keep saying that we have to thank the people that give our audio. Do we ever actually say where they can get these audio?
Oh, my God. You can find us at deadrobotsociety.com, where all the episodes are available there for download. You can subscribe to iTunes. You can find us on probably a bunch of other things I don't even know about. Now I'm going to turn over the end of the show back to Terry, who had a senior moment.
I did. I got distracted by a squirrel. Folks, you can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/DRS podcast, where for as little as $1 a month, you can get some extra content and help us make this show what it is or what it is not. And of course,
you're rolling, man. You're just rolling. Just keep on going. Just keep on going. Jesus Christ.
That's it. I'm not saying another word.
I promise, folks, next time I'll give him cue cards or something.
I just got sidetracked. I can't help it. I got sidetracked by a squirrel thought.
If you'd like to comment on how bad Terry fucked up this outro, you can send an email to show@deadrobotsociety.com. You can tweet me at Paul_E_Cooley. Shut up, Terry. You're making me lose it. You can find us on Facebook and listeners of the Dead Robot Society Facebook group. You can find this on YouTube at youtube.com/DRS podcast. Terry, goddamn it, I swear to God. I swear to God. We have to thank our wonderful host, Pod Hoster, who makes all 14 billion episodes of Dead Robot Society available for your ear holes. You can find us at patreon.com/DRS podcast if you'd like to get access to exclusive content, help us pay our bills, and
give me a paper bag before I hyperventilate.
And get monthly live shows. And at the end of every episode, we have to thank our wonderful $10 patrons. Who this week are Sue, I'm too old for this shit, Maven, JD Barker, Jack F. Erickson, Kelson, Holly Hangs, Holly here, hopping, happy holidays, hurry, Isabel Cushy, Rick Shaw, Lisa Slack, Sandy Manpants, Cheryl Winters, Tracy Bodine, John Kilgallen, Devin Lee, Drew Amazing Apocalyptic Octopi Apocalypsis Bernardi, almost got me completely, Chris Winder, Andre Conde Moraes, DJ Chamberlain, and J.R. Handley. Can I let you talk again, or is it a lost cause? Thank you very much, patrons, for making this insanity possible. And with that, we're going to say goodbye before Terry just turns the color of eggplant. Bye, folks.